Wake up, people! Oh, shit, here we go. Everybody thinks I'm going to be eating crow here. John's the man. John is the man. Okay, if you've been watching this series that I've been doing on this, it started with the cops telling the guy to kick the door in on the guy, and then they went in and tased him. And then it went to another case to where John went after a judge that went and did a search warrant with no warrant, even though she can issue a verbal warrant, but she never had a probable cause, blah, blah, blah. If you're up on the case, my prediction was, without knowing all the facts, but reading the complaint, the judge would not lose her qualified immunity, and the taxpayers would pay her fine, and it wouldn't cost her shit, and nothing would happen to her. And in that video, I gave an example of where a cop was, or judge was doing some stuff, and they let him retire. They just said, dude, do you want to stay and fight this? You know, we can go through appeal. You may win. It's going to cost money. You're going to have to hire an attorney. Or, you know, you've been a judge for 30 years. Do you want to retire? And the judge retired. So the people that made the complaint says, yay, we won. We got rid of him. Yeah, I mean, he retired. Maybe he wasn't there for another year or so, but he was already there for 30 years. In this case, first of all, kudos and big props to John for getting her immunity pulled. I would not have predicted, even he said in the video that in an unprecedented ruling, which is really, I don't know if he used that exact term, but he made the point that this doesn't happen a lot. Government officials rarely, if ever, lose their immunity. So anybody predicting that somebody probably won't lose it is probably going to be right more than they're going to be wrong, if you want to go with right and wrong. Again, the law's fluid. So all the people will be coming here, and there was already the comments and everybody, you don't know what you're talking about, man. She was fired, and she's no longer a judge, and she got disbarred. Which is bullshit. She's not disbarred. She's still in the bar. They didn't disbar her. She may have been disciplined. They let her retire. She's going to do side work. And when they let these judges retire, a lot of times they will bring them back and do contracts with them as a payback for them not fighting and not doing this, and we'll use you. You know, the DA that retired, when he retired and supported the guy that replaced him, that ended up winning, part of his condition for supporting him is you'll bring me back as a consultant to supplement my retirement. And that little deal was cut, and that DA is no longer the DA, but he gets to come back and work cases that he wants and gets paid big money as a consultant and private DA, basically. But anyway, let's take a look at the video in case you're not aware of it. I've already given you the spoiler, but there's a few things in here that I'm going to give you my side. And once again, I've said from the start, John is a good dude. I love it when he freaking burns money and lights his cigars. He is my kind of guy. I could drink and party. He's got guns. He is a good dude. So the people that come here and really like him, a lot of times if you say something about somebody that you like, you get this attacks on YouTube. And I tell my viewers a lot, don't attack people if they disagree with me or something. I mean, if they're being rude or lying, great, correct them. They need it. But if they just disagree with me, it's not a big deal. And all my disagreements with John is the inconsistency and unpredictability of our laws, the courts, the judges, the Supreme Court, the appellate court, civil versus criminal, cops immunity versus cops are legal. Are they allowed to do it? And what happens if they're not? That's all I'm trying to convey here, is there is no right and wrong. There's how it plays out. And the more you understand that, you're going to make better decisions if you get involved in any of this shit. So stop saying I'm coming here hating on John. I don't. I like this dude. I think he does great work. I love the fact that he's holding government accountable. I love the fact that he goes against the system. I love the fact that he's freaking cocky as shit when he burns money and lights a cigar. He is my kind of dude. Stop trying to make it that I don't like this guy, or I think he's full of shit, or I'm smarter than him and he's a dumbass. That's not ever been said, but you can see it the way you want. Here we go.
News, you get to hear it first. Do you remember this case, the family court judge search case? Well, now it's over for good.
Hey guys, I need you off my property, please. Hey, you ain't allowed on my property. The only ones allowed right now is the judge and the deputy. Step off the property. Yeah. Step off the property.
And they ignore him. Rick, he was right. It was his property, and he told... And I said, you ain't stopping. And then I had somebody give me one case to where a guy shot some cops, and the jury didn't convict him. Look, that can happen. I think it ought to happen every time. When cops come barging into your house in the middle of the night in black clothes, and they don't announce, and they just throw in freaking flashbangs like they did in Houston on a fake warrant. Anybody remember that case? Let me go over that case real quick. Remember the guy, I think his name was Goins. Black officer. Carried dope in his car from other drug busts. Totally out of control. Got a white family, mother, child, or his wife, him, and his dog. Cops came in on a fake warrant, planted evidence, shot and killed him. Everybody was like, oh man, this guy's going to prison. He's going to lose his immunity. And they charged him with a crime. And the last I heard, all charges were dismissed. Nothing happened to him. He lied on a warrant. He planted evidence, and he went in and killed 2 people. And he's not in jail. And people were like, man, you're wrong. Cops aren't allowed to do that, man. And this guy defended his home and shot at him. And I think he shot one of the officers. And he was the bad guy. But you know what? Nothing happened to the cop. Rick, you're wrong. You're wrong, man. All right, whatever. I'm just telling you. Okay, I'm trying to get people who want to think and want to learn that they don't know the law. The law isn't something that you can know and say, this is a law, it's right and wrong, and if you do this, you will always get this. And if you do this and you follow the law, you will never go to jail, you will never pay a fine, you'll never be a victim of the system. All you have to do is follow the law, Rick. Well, I'm telling you, that is bullshit. Rick, you're wrong. I follow the law, and I've never... Whatever.
And once again, to celebrate in the traditional fashion, because...
Dude, this dude's my spirit brother. I freaking love it when he does this.
How it went down, but we have now settled this case. The defendants have agreed to pay my client $200,000 in order to avoid going to trial.
I said before, when a settlement happens, the taxpayers get screwed. He even mentions this in his video, that this isn't necessarily the taxpayers get screwed. So the judge was found at fault, and the sheriff's department who hired the bailiffs were found at fault, which doesn't make sense to me. Somebody brought up a good point, and this is an interesting topic. So the courts ruled that cops have no duty to act. And the case that caused that was on a case where a woman had a restraining order on her husband. She had custody of her kids. The husband stole the kids, told her he was going to kill the kids. She went to the cops, and they went, it's just a court order. You know, we're going to look for him. And the guy ends up killing the kids. So she sued and said, I went through the legal system. I got my restraining order. I told you he violated it, and you guys refused to enforce it. And she tried to hold the cops accountable. And the courts came back and went, cops have no duty to act. They don't have to enforce your order just because you have an order. So somebody made a comment, which is very interesting. If cops have no duty to act on a restraining order to enforce that order, why do they have a duty to enforce an arrest order or a search order or any court order if they have no duty to act? My interpretation could be totally wrong. I'm just telling you, I know how the law freaking works. I know how the system works, how government protects. My interpretation is if this was challenged under the pretense that I just said, and y'all ask John what he thinks. If cops don't have to enforce a restraining order, which is a court order signed by a judge, how can they hold cops accountable if I say, so what, there's an arrest warrant, the judge said arrest it? Because an arrest warrant, a judge orders any peace officer to take this person into custody. That's a court order. Why can't cops ignore that? They have no duty to act. Why can't we deny search warrants and all that? If there's no duty to act, why do cops have to enforce any court order? Why can't they tell all judges to fuck off? Why can't judges not hold cops in contempt because they have no duty to act on their order? And if I don't have to listen to a judge's order, and she orders me to do something and I go, fuck you, and she holds me in contempt, The court's already ruled that I have no duty to act and enforce a judge's order. This is a very complex, interesting dilemma, which I would love to play out in the courts. But I can tell you how it would play out. Cops have no duty to act to help citizens, but they do have a duty to follow the courts and the judicial branch because it's separation of powers, and they are the executive branch and judicial branch and the legislative branch. So the legislative branch makes the laws. The cops supposedly have to follow the laws unless they're exempt from the laws when they're chasing and driving 200 miles an hour and killing people. Then the judicial branch acts and all the powers are separated. But that's not the way it is. Rick, you're wrong. The Constitution says it is. Okay, some guy put it here. I'm a bootlicker. I'm like, dude, really? You're going to call me a bootlicker? I am probably the most outspoken retired cop out there against law enforcement tyranny and excessive abuse of power. I don't know of any other cop that is outspoken as me against dirty cops and the system. And this guy's going to come here and call me a bootlicker. I'm like, really, dude? All right, whatever. Okay, so I've always said tyranny's easy, freedom's hard. Our system was based on freedom. We knew it was going to be hard. 1,000 guilty people should go free versus one innocent person getting caught up in a system. Government should be held accountable. They should report to the people. They should literally fear the people. When government fears the people, there is freedom. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. And if you don't fear the government in this day and age, then you don't get it. In my opinion, our government's out of control. They don't report to us. They don't fear us, and we fear them. And that's the definition of tyranny. But we'll see. Here we go.
We sued the West Virginia Family Court judge. The judge appealed it to the Fourth Circuit. We had oral arguments there a couple months ago.
Now former West Virginia Family Court Judge Louise Goldston led the search and seizure of property in my client's private home over his strenuous objection and repeatedly threw threats to have him arrested if he did not allow the search party to conduct the search that it.
Rick, she lost. She's not a judge, and she had to pay a fine. I still don't think she paid a freaking fine. I think there was a backdoor deal, and the taxpayers paid. I told you the case to where the DA that I worked for fired a guy, and he brought him in. He brought an attorney and said, if you don't resign, I'm going to fire you. And the attorney goes, but I don't want to resign. The DA goes, you're not listening. Either you resign or I'm going to fire you. So the DA resigned. And then he sued the DA. And he won. And he went to court and they said that you can't do that. You can't. If you had the reason to fire him, you have to go through the steps, prove it, and then he has a right to appeal and fight the firing. But you can't intimidate him and force him to resign based on threats of being fired. And he won. And not only did he win, the DA was charged with punitive damages. So when the DA lost, the taxpayers paid the money. I think he got, $100,000 or something. And the taxpayers had to pay that. The DA didn't pay it. But in this case, in civil case, they can award punitive damages. And punitive damages is against one party, and they say you must have to pay. No one else can pay. This is on you because your conduct was so egregious and so wrong that you have to pay out of your pocket. And I think it was either $6 or $10,000 that they awarded the guy that he said, quit or I'll fire you. They said the DA must pay him $10,000 out of his own pocket because his conduct was so egregious, and they knew that the taxpayers are going to pay most of the money. Who thinks the DA paid the $10,000? He didn't. Well, he did. Rick, you're wrong. He did pay. Okay, he did pay. He wrote him a check for $10,000 in compliance with the court order. But the county, the taxpayers, cut a backdoor deal and told the DA, we're going to give you a $10,000 bonus, but you have to write the check to him so the courts know that you paid. So the taxpayers still paid. But all the idiots running around that are here telling me that I'm wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about, they ran around saying, see, Rick, they got punitive damage and the DA had to pay out of his pocket. I'm like, well, that's because you're an idiot. And you just don't know how the backdoor bullshit government protects government deals work. So in this case, the client got $200,000, and I think he says he doesn't know what the division of payment was. So it doesn't sound like there was punitive damages. If the judge would have been awarded punitive damages, then I would say she had to pay. But right now, I'm still standing by. She didn't pay shit. She cut a deal with the county and the sheriff's office cut a deal, and they paid everything. It was taxpayer money. It didn't cost her shit. She retired. She got a sweetheart deal. She don't have to work anymore. She had been a judge for 26 years. Now she's a lawyer and she can work private practice, do whatever the hell she wants. And you got idiots running around saying she was disbarred. Look her up on the freaking bar. She's still active on the bar list. So, you know, again, just to show you how nothing is what it seems and nothing is what we're told is true. I'm not saying it's John's lying. I'm just saying that's the way it works.
I think that when you say she has been disciplined and stuff, it is not something in her favor for asserting judicial immunity here. Rather, it's something that would suggest that she's not entitled to judicial immunity for these acts.
And we won before the Fourth Circuit.
She's not entitled to judicial immunity. I love it. That is a great ruling, and total props to him for pushing it, putting together a good case, arguing it right, and getting that ruling. However, I think he says it's the Fourth Circuit. I'm not sure on what court did it. It's not what I would call worldwide yet. It's localized. It's not a Supreme Court ruling of immunity. I still don't know of a case, and maybe they're out there, where the Supreme Court ruled that somebody loses governmental immunity. But again, I could be wrong. I'm just
creating new case law on when judicial immunity can be denied in a civil lawsuit against a judge.
So when it can be denied on a judge, I don't know if that holds true for pulling it from a cop, if it's a different standard. For a cop, you can't pull immunity, and I think this is from the Supreme Court, you can't pull immunity from a cop unless you can show a precedent or a prior case that's exactly the same where a cop lost his immunity. And if you can't pull it without pointing to a case, there'll never be a case where a cop loses immunity. It's a bullshit. It's a Pandora's box that can never be opened, because unless you can prove there's a case where a guy used immunity, you can't pull a cop's immunity. Therefore, there's never a case where a cop loses his immunity. So because this judge lost it, I don't know if that applies to cops. My guess would be it does not, but I don't know.
After we won before the Fourth Circuit, it went back to the trial court, and a jury trial was scheduled for January 9th, so in just a few weeks. This is some of the video footage that the jury was going to be shown at the trial in January, and based on that, the jury would get to determine an amount of damages to award against the judge.
Your motion's...
So I'm assuming this footage he's showing here was body cam footage from the deputies, which is good, which is why I think all cops ought to be wearing body cams in all contexts. I think because the judge made him shut off his phone and kick that one lady and told him she was going to arrest him. So this video footage of them walking around the house, which is new, which to me makes this case even more egregious, when you see the way that she was letting her go through all his CDs, and this wife, after a year of leaving him, was just able to collect shit and humiliate him and violate his privacy. I don't even think 200 grand is worth what he went through. But I'm not saying that was a bad deal that he took the settlement. You never know what a jury's going to do. And juries sometimes will vote their pocketbook and go, if we give this person a lot of money, that's taxpayer money. And we don't think taxpayer money should be spent on this. So they'll go low. And then if they're really inflamed, they'll be like, we don't care about taxpayer money. This guy should get $100 million. And you just never know. I'm not second guessing John's decision to tell his client to take this deal or advise to or from, or they agreed to take the deal. So I'm assuming they were both in agreement. But this footage makes it even worse what this freaking judge did to this dude.
Denied, it's not timely filed.
Wait, please go with.
He's entitled to be here. Now, you're either going to let me in that house or he's going to arrest you for direct. Are you recording this?
Yes, ma'am.
Take his phone. You're not allowed to record this.
Don't take my phone, sir.
Recording too. Turn off your phones. I'll take you to jail if you don't turn them off. Do you understand that?
My phone's not on, ma'am.
Why she holding it?
Yeah, why is she? Put it up. Give him the phone, or you're going to be arrested.
I can record on my
You
land.
cannot. You can have the other one. Take that one.
I think his damages, I'm not saying that you should get yourself arrested, but I think that damages would have been more or would have been a better sale had she arrested him. I'm not saying he should have been arrested. I think he played it right. Why go to jail and do all this? He did the right thing. But had she arrested him, it would have inflamed more people and it would have been more egregious. And it would have been so-called more emotional stress, booking, loss of work. Now he has a record, has to get expunged. You know, it would have increased the damages.
Just set it right there. We'll get everything when we leave.
We'll get everything we leave. Wow.
I'm happy to think we should come.
Oh, isn't that nice? I'll arrest you if you don't turn off your video. I'll arrest you if you don't let me in. Oh, I'll take my shoes off. Aw, that reminds me of the government. We go in and freaking shoot everybody and kill everybody, and then we're like, oh, the officer provided first aid after shooting him 26 times because he was reaching for his phone. But the law enforcement were on the spot and gave first aid. Okay.
Well, he's not.
It's cold because you're a snake, you little weasel witch.
Huh? Yes, take them.
Take him. Stripped his house of his pictures. Wow. So everybody that's saying this guy won, he got 200 grand. That's nice. He got some money. I wouldn't be surprised if this woman could take him to court and say some of that money's mine. But I don't think she'd get it, but she could take him to court over it. In fact, the humiliation and the pride that this woman gets to impede on this guy and say, look what I did. All you had to do was pay me $5,000, because that was it. None of this would have happened had the guy paid $5,000 and he got $200,000. Was it a good move? I don't know.
Just like to order him to follow the rules, Judge.
Judge?
Hey, I just came by
I'm
the
gonna ask you to be quiet.
backside of Lowe's on the
Okay. What else do you
bypass.
think
Looks
is
like
here?
they got a
And then you're
forever
gonna
NVA there.
In this closet. This is where we kept them.
I don't need her to do the
It's on the bypass at the Lowe's entrance.
get them.
The red one's mine.
You'll watch on the bypass by the Lowe's entrance.
This guy handled it pretty good. He's pretty calm for all this going along. I mean, I would have probably had to leave and just go do what you need to do. I ain't going to sit here and watch this because I'd have been just too steaming and boiling.
Got 10-4. I could tell. Looked like they were outside looking at the running around the vehicle.
The CD's out.
Oops, I tripped and fell. And I fell into her and she tripped and fell and broke her leg.
Go in there and pick the ones you want, and if you let them.
Take what you want. Wow. So this is basically what you would call, and I've talked about this before, a general warrant. We'll just go in and see what we want and take it. Which is why when you do a search warrant, you're required by law to list specific things that you want to take and what you're looking for. And you can only take those items unless, Rick, there's no unless, that's the law. Well, you're full of shit. Unless, while you're searching for these items, you find other evidence of another crime. Then you can take those items. So if I go in looking for a motorcycle and I see 5 pounds of cocaine, I can take that too. And now we have a new crime. Even though I wasn't looking for cocaine, even though cocaine wasn't on the list of things I'm looking for. The way the law works is as long as a cop can get in your house legally per the law that says if I have a warrant, I'm legally there, then anything I find, I'm good. The way the cops get around the general warrant to list specific things, as I said before, is all cops are taught when you do a warrant, you put you're looking for papers and effects and indicia for ownership, property, etc. So if I'm looking for a gun, I don't just put I'm looking for a gun on the warrant. I make it a general warrant, which is exactly what it is, and I say I'm looking for gun parts, ammo for the gun, things that will modify the gun. Receipts for the gun. Now, because I'm looking for a receipt, I can look anywhere a paper can be, which means anything I find, I'm good. If I only put gun, I can't look in a small box that the gun wouldn't fit in, because that would be suppressed. So how do you get around that? You always say you're looking for papers. And then I can look anywhere a sheet of paper, and I'll never get anything squashed on my warrant because I'm authorized to be anywhere and look anywhere because of that piece of paper. It's bullshit. It's a workaround, but it's legal and it's lawful, and every cop does it, and every jurisdiction does it, and every judge and every lawyer know it's bullshit. Rick, you don't know what you're talking about. The Constitution says warrants must be specific, and you have to list things exactly what you want. Well, that's because you're an idiot. So keep running around telling everybody how smart you are. All right. Outrageous.
Well, the big news is that facing that jury trial, the defendants have decided to settle. So we have settled. Remember that in a federal civil rights lawsuit, also called a Section 1983 case, the reason it's called Section 1983 is because that allows us to sue our government officials if they violate our federally protected rights. Then if
it allows us to sue, but normally the government wins. Anyway, if you want to go watch the full video, we settled, family court judge, blah, blah, blah.
We win, and expenses. Judge impedes, and also our reasonable attorney's fees and expenses. So in this case, although we did get other relief in this case, I mean, we got the judge impeached.
When he says they got her impeached, and I could be wrong, it was my understanding that they coerced her that she was going to be impeached, or there would be an impeachment hearing if she didn't resign. And so she resigned. Is she impeached, or did she make a decision? In her mind, I went out on my terms. Screw them. I would have preferred her to be kicked out, but I'm not so sure I would say she was kicked out. She resigned. She retired. She didn't really resign. She retired. Full benefits. No penalty, in my opinion.
We got the judge disciplined from the West Virginia Supreme Court. We got a West Virginia Supreme Court order in our favor. We got a U.S. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals order in our favor. And the only remaining issue to be decided was the award of money damages, which is ultimately all you can get at the end of the day in these cases. So that was the question. Are we proceeding towards a trial where a jury can determine the amount of the award, or do we try to reach some sort of settlement? Well, you just watched that video. If you were one of the 8 citizens that are sitting on the jury and you watched that.
He said 8. I thought there was 12. I don't know if that's a West Virginia thing or if that's a federal thing, that there's only 8 jurors on a civil trial. I don't know. But when he said 8, I was kind of like, why 8? There is in Texas, you can ask for a jury trial on traffic tickets, because all traffic tickets in Texas are arrestable and they're misdemeanors. So you can ask for a jury trial on your traffic tickets. They try to talk you out of it. They tell you the judge is easier, it's better, it's quicker, it won't take as much time, and they really try to force you to go to judge because it's easier and the judge will rule against you. In Texas, you're allowed to say, no, I want a jury. And they only allow 6 jurors on a traffic ticket, which I think is bullshit, but they allow 8 here, they allow 6 in Texas.
Gibson's Fourth Amendment rights, that this was an illegal search of his home, an illegal seizure in his home by somebody from the government acting under color of law. What is the amount of damages that you're going to award against that individual?
If I'm on the jury, I'm always ruling against the government almost all the time. The burden of proof for me, for the government, is extremely high, which it should be, because the government has all the resources, all the power, all the ability to put together a perfect case. And if there's any holes in that case whatsoever, or I, as a jury member, if I think there's any suppression or, there's an objection, Your Honor, I can't say this. If they hide anything, they don't get my vote, period. I mean, I'm pretty much almost to the point now that I don't really give a shit how good the case is. I'm going to jury nullify and say not guilty. The more jurors that stop giving government guilty verdicts, the more we'll get a hold of the system, and they'll be like, we can't keep threatening people that they're facing all this time because we can't get a jury conviction.
No, $200,000 to my client in exchange for settling this case and avoiding this going to the jury.
So what I didn't get out of this is I don't know if that $200,000 was on top of his charges. Did they pay his fees and $200,000? Or I think he says him and his client split or determined what they would get. And normally when civil, I mean, I don't know if this is normal. What I've heard is normal is when a civil attorney takes your case, a lot of times they'll take it on the presumption that I know I'm going to get some money. So instead of charging you my legal fees, I'm just going to get 40 or 50 or whatever percent of the settlement. If you get 20,000, I get 10, you get 10. And we agree to that, and I'll do all the work and I'll put in all the time. I may put in more than $10,000 worth of work, but if I only get 20, that's what I get. So it's a gamble for the attorney and the person, which is okay. So I don't know if his attorney fees were paid and his client got 200 grand, or if his client got 200 grand and they split it for attorney fees, or he got his cut or whatever they agreed to, whatever. I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's just, look, the guy won. He got her immunity pulled. She ended up resigning. It's a win-win, but it's not what a lot of people are going to say. See, Rick, she can't do that. And look what she wasn't criminally charged. She didn't do any jail time. She didn't lose her bar status. She did it. To me, it's all bullshit, but it's a win for this guy. It's a win for we the people. And I'm glad he's fighting a fight. I mean, I just go watch the video. I think I've beat this dead horse enough. I'm at 33 minutes. Hopefully you got something out of it. And we'll end that there.